Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. Now, Slay to Success is on a whole nother different level. So, as you know, I advise and empower women professionals, especially women veterans, to step up into their most authentic personal brand. But here lately, y'all, I have been called to do more presentations and workshops and seminars, if you will, through the corporate side of the house. And so you will see some changes that are happening, but I'm here to elevate our impact, elevate our presence, and empower ourselves to move into a different ways using some strategies, of course, 4 major areas that we're looking at, which is our visual appearance, our behaviors, communication skills, and our digital presence, which I call personal branding. And so, as you know, we come here on this show, we have a guest. I always bring in someone that I know is most fitting to talk about all the things. In fact, y'all, my guest is someone that I met, okay, at a networking event. And I was like, we are in alignment, Queen. We will have this conversation on the show. We will not have it in a corner somewhere. We're going to have it on the show. And we're going to bring her to everyone here so that way you can meet her as well. And so we start with the SLAY philosophies, okay? The slay means, okay, in its entirety, it means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym that stands for Universal Life and Leadership Philosophies that really resonate with me, and hopefully they resonate with you too. And that is stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, and knowing you are built to last. So on this show, I bring in a guest who are using the slay philosophies to make a positive impact in this world on their own terms. All right. And so as you come in, please let us know where you're streaming in from. Give us a shout out so we can, say, hey, how you doing and all that great stuff. So that way we can get to know you and you can be part of the conversation tonight. So, y'all, everyone knows it's Leo season, all right? Today is the day before my 53rd birthday. I will be 53 years old tomorrow, okay? And so I am excited about this new season of life that I'm about to enter into. And as you know, Leos, we can't help ourselves. We just have to let everybody know. And so I was like, wait until I get on the show and let everybody know that this queen is about to turn 53. And I am excited about the age. I don't even feel my age, y'all. But it is so great to have a platform such as this one to bring in other people to help them to elevate and amplify their voice. And so tonight, y'all, I have a special guest, as I said before. And if you saw the preview, you probably already read, but I will read a little bit about her to you so we can get this conversation started. All right. Now, her name is Beth Culver. Okay. And she did 4 decades leading and breaking barriers in national security and cybersecurity with the U.S. Department of Defense. Okay. She worked through her own inner barriers and chose to retire earlier than planned to pursue her passion of empowering women full time. She has started her own coaching practice to elevate mid to late career women in cybersecurity to reclaim their well-being, overcome burnout, gain clarity, and create a life they love. Now, this is all too familiar, like I said, in alignment. As all you know, I served for 30 years in the United States Air Force, and became an image consultant, personal brand expert, and wrote all these things, okay, behind me. And so as you get to know Beth, please make sure that you're asking questions that you already have about the journey. So please welcome and give a warm welcome to my guest, Beth. Hello.
Hello. We're doing it.
We're doing it.
Okay. And I'm a Leo, and you didn't know that. Happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to me on next Friday.
Your birthday's when?
The 22nd, Friday.
Oh,
It's after yours.
listen, y'all. This was supposed to be a thing today. This was divinely created. Two Leos and their birthdays, they were less than a week apart from one another. I'm just so grateful for your yes, and for your life. Okay. And happiest birthday, early birthday to you. And welcome to the Slate to Success Talk Show, where we talk all the things. And so when we met at the networking event, and this was probably 2 or 3 months ago, maybe. And, we just started having a conversation, and I immediately knew. I was like, wait a minute. Did you say 4 decades? And Department of Defense? I was like, you had me there. So just share a little bit about who you are, kind of, what your journey has looked like, what you did when you were in the DOD, and a little bit more, and then we'll get started with the real juicy stuff.
Yeah. So I don't want to bore people half to death with like a lot of things, but I'll just give you the highlights. I had 11 different work role position titles, and I started out as a GS1, a high school work study.
Oh,
I was a clerical assistant, and we were using typewriters because we didn't have computers. They were electric though. And this is how
wow.
it is, right? And so I was offered a full-time position, and I step into a completely new environment as a computer systems operator. And I do that for a few years. That was shift work. I didn't want to do shift work anymore. And then I take on a new position. And this is today you can kind of envision this as data entry, but we didn't have computers, but there was a special mission that required a computer. And because I had very proficient typing skills, they assigned me that. I had a computer on my desk, and I was able to communicate worldwide. Unheard of. And so I do these things, and then comes the very first riff. So y'all, this is not my first rodeo.
Hey, listen, Beth, tell the audience, for those that don't know what that means, what that stands for.
A riff is a reduction in force, where the government says the federal government must downsize. And we will do it through a process. And this process actually had been a very thoughtful process. Still scary, because how we interpret the processes and all those things. And so my job was on the chopping block. And there were a lot of people taking an early buyout. And my boss, whom I love dearly and is still living, and I just love her so much. So she was very worried for me, and she said, Beth, you know what? I've been told I need a college education, and this is what you should do. You should go to college. Now, college wasn't required then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is now, I'm just kind of tracking. This is very early 90s. And so I don't know how I'm going to afford college, because I'm like a GS5 and on my own. So I find a program. And so here it is. We're not taught to find a job you love. We are looking at a job that will pay the bills, right? How do I pay the bills? How do I stay employed? So I find this job is not in alignment at all. It's an engineering technician job. It's very masculine. I'm sitting in school with all these Verizon dudes, and I do okay though. And then I have to complete all the requirements, and then I have to find a new position, and it's all men. And so the mentor they assigned me was not the smartest dude at all. He was actually like the Rock, like, dumb Rock.
Oh, no.
He would laugh. Like every time I would say, hey, is this right? And he would laugh, this little funny laugh. And so I was very confused. It was like on purpose, confuse the little girl. So I did this for a couple of years, and I really was like, this is just not happening for me. And it was time for like your career promotion feedback, and it came out to be a couple bosses. That one was a woman. And she looked right at me and she said, I can never justify promoting you over a computer scientist or an engineer. So now you say, well, what is my value?
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, well, now I'm like, well, I didn't feel very smart. And you're working in an area and you're developing a lot of imposter syndrome because you're just kind of set up to fail.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, what do I do now? And so they had a intern program, which is really, it's where you get to go to school and you get to tour different offices, and then you work toward these credentials.
Yep.
Somehow the woman running the program looked at my degree, but she said, well, you need a few more classes, but I'm going to let you come on board. Oh boy. I was missing core computer programming classes. So I step into 300 level and 400 level computer programming. And I'm just going to say I cried during those 4 years.
Oh, I bet.
And I was doing it, but more imposter syndrome. And then along the way, I get married and I have 2 children. And then when all that is done, I said, okay, well, the program is complete. You're required to go find another job. And this is where my cybersecurity career kind of takes off. It's not called it's not called cybersecurity. It was called information assurance.
Yep.
And I got this role. Now, the original role name is really long, complicated, but the new name is Computer Network Defense Analyst. And I do all kinds of work in this field for 10 years. And I had the amazing opportunity to stand up our National Threat Operations Center, and it was shift work, and it was on. I mean, you are in it, okay? And so you're working all this shift work. It's very exhausting, very tiring, and I do that for 3 years. And then I got tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, Beth, we'd really like you to run our organization, step into the leadership. We really like what we see. Would you run our organization? And I didn't ask a whole lot of questions and probably should have.
Yeah. But you know how we do. We like, oh yeah, we take that too.
We'll take that. And what I get is an organization to land of misfits.
Yep.
Okay. The manager there had given up on himself and his entire organization, and it was a mess. He didn't have any belief in himself to be a manager, and he said, I can't even get myself promoted. How can I get anybody else promoted? And I said, but that's not management, right? You have to lead an organization. And so I had to first think about, what do I need to do? And I realized I needed to get to know the people. I needed to build their trust. And so I took my time and I individually got to know every single person. I got to know their name, and were they married, not married? Did they have children? Did they have fur babies? And I took time to nurture those relationships. And this is where I found my sweet spot. I had the opportunity to empower women.
Yeah.
And women coming in technical was still really small. Yeah. And I had plenty of men. And it turns out that the man who hired me to do this, he tells me years later, he said, you're the only woman I ever hired. Can you?
The story of our lives.
But what I got out of that is I developed a great relationship with him, and I had a lot of creativity and a lot of innovation, and I followed all the HR rules. I hired men too. But whenever I had an opportunity to empower women and give them a position in my organization or a sister organization, if they weren't a good fit, I found opportunities for them.
Yeah.
And we built like an amazing organization.
Yeah.
And there's more to this, but we'll just keep glossing over this. After the manager position, what did I do? I have to think about this. I became an executive assistant. This was a super, super stretchy position. And the pandemic starts, and I get through some of that, and then I become a cyber liaison. and I did a little staff officer work, and then I landed my final position. This was like my dream position, and this is called a skill community director.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you're really taking care of strategic and tactical initiatives. This is where the networking and telecommunication work roles. So people are just highly technical. This is the best way I can describe it. Really highly technical people, and you're caring for them, and mentoring and coaching and finding out what it is that do they need, and a lot of strategic initiatives. And then here we are. I retire out of that job 4.5 years early. That was
I know, like, wait, okay, I'm trying to get my bearings right here. I'm trying to get back to, like, when you stepped into an organization, starting from G1, which is like like the lowest point that you can enter into the government contract or government service space. And then you're building, and even feeling like you had some imposter syndrome along the way, and working in male dominated environments, and then seeing that, you're end of the sweet spot of getting to know your people, really understanding the leadership acumen, building your skills so where you can build teams, successful teams that are efficient, they are running more smoothly, and then going the extra step to look at how can I empower the women that I see that are way more than qualified to lead in these different roles, and how can I position them in such a way, right? I think that, for many of us that are watching in on the show, we've had paths, we've all had kind of like a different way we kind of got there or whatnot. But at the end, especially if we've done these longer careers, we find ourselves really understanding the dynamics, and at the end of the day, just like Chevy said, it's about getting to know your people. All right. It's really about that. And when you have, it sounded like you were the cleanup girl. Okay. Like you went in there and you said the land of misfits. I kind of use that terminology too, because sometimes it's like that. People just throw people into a work center and they're like, make them better, sprinkle a little magic dust on them. You can go ahead and run with these individuals, but they need way more than that, So you're now at the point where, okay, and then you had a whole family. And we kind of skimmed over that. Like you got married, had children, and trying to balance all of that with the shift work and all the ins and outs of that. And then we get to the pandemic, okay? Which I know for many of us, we're still trying to recover from the pandemic. It's just, there has been so much into that. So what was going on with you and your work, if you will, during the pandemic?
Oh, wow. This is going to get juicy.
Well, let's get there. All right. I'm ready.
Okay. So my kids are grown.
Mm-hmm.
I am an empty nester. So let's see. How old am I? I'm 52. I'm an empty nester. Okay.
We're the same age.
And four. Right. Right. I'm 52.
Yes.
I'm an empty nester and I'm missing my children. And mamas, you know how it is, right? But on top of that, I think there's like 5 or 6 big things I'm going to talk about here. I'm going through menopause, stepping into menopause. And so my system was so out of whack. And, you're hot, you're on fire, you're not sleeping, and then your brain's not working right. I am kidding you not. Like the brain doesn't work right.
No.
Okay. I'm in this super stretchy assignment. So one thing I didn't know that my mentor probably would have been helpful if he told me this was when you do super stretchy assignments, they tell you, oh, go out and be an executive assistant. Right? And work up. What they should have told me was find somebody, like a senior that you know.
Yeah.
Like already have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
I didn't already have a relationship with this senior. And she didn't understand our culture 100% because she came in from outside, from out of the intelligence community in, and she'd been there a couple years, but she didn't really fully understand the culture. So, and then she got tapped to work a different side of the mission. And I didn't know that mission either. And she said, "Oh, we'll just learn it together." Woo! And so we're learning to communicate or not communicating well because she's when I say alpha one, she's a top tier senior. Like she's not way at the top, but she's up there, right?
Right.
And so she has a lot of responsibility. She has a big portfolio, and I don't have any experience to guide her. And so there was all this happening, and then the pandemic hits.
Mm.
We do send a lot of people home.
Mm-hmm.
First time ever. But
Mm-hmm.
because she's a senior, she was required to report to duty. And therefore, because I was her exec, I was required to report to duty. So I have to work in person during this whole thing. I somehow become a go-to expert because there's like nobody there, right? All of a sudden, we're now a jack of all trades, 4 or 5 jobs, whatever it takes to get the job done. You didn't know what you were walking into that day.
Mm-mm.
And we had outbreaks, right? So we had some safety issues. We have to work through this. And then my boss, because of the pandemic, she gets tapped to go replace somebody. And we have to work through that and get her out. That ended up being great for me.
Oh,
right?
okay.
We weren't communicating very well.
Oh.
It was turning into be a real struggle. But my personal life was in a massive shambles.
Mm.
I had married earlier, had my children, divorced, then remarried, and got 2 bonus daughters. However, that marriage was toxic, and it was very abusive. And I didn't want to face my worst fears, but I had to, because all of a sudden, a divorce was imminent. And so I knew with the divorce, I was going to potentially lose so much of what I'd worked for. My home, parts of my pension, things that I didn't want to face. But I had to. But this was a turning point for me. I put a stake in the ground for myself. And I unapologetically say that I have God in my life. I have been in and out of church my whole life. And I had been on committees and nursery rooms and vacation Bible school and reconnected with my father through forgiveness because of church. So I had a relationship with God. But this went far deeper. And I said, I don't know how, but I really need your help. I didn't know how I was going to get through that. But he did show me the way. And so I got some help. I found some trauma coaching, and I went through that. And then with more clarity, I found woman-centered coaching, and this is where it gets deep. This is where I really began to shift out the identity issues and the limiting beliefs that were really holding me back. And so all through COVID, I ended up getting an apartment. I would go to work during the day and then go home and do all this inner work. And the tears flow.
Yeah.
I sat with myself in the mud. We got straight. And I will tell you that now I am living my very best life.
Yes.
Living my very best life.
Yeah.
Do the work, and you talk about mindset, and boy, let me tell you,
It is a game changer, I think, once you really understand who you are. And it's not beating yourself up for all the littlest things that have happened up to that point, but really doing some self-reflection on why. Why was I doing whatever it is? What was the impact of what I was doing? Was it good or bad? Or, did it yield the results that I was looking for? And if not, how can I do things differently? You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
when you have that opportunity, because I say it's an opportunity to really sit with yourself and look at everything from a holistic standpoint. And it starts in the mind. All the things that we desire and that we deserve usually start in the mind. And once we can start to think about the actions and the behaviors that we can start to do to get to a better place, this is when we can say, we actually did the work and now I'm living a better life. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And I think that we have a lot of things in common because we do, guide, support, empower women all the time who may be in situations like the one you just spoke to, especially during the pandemic, and really trying to figure out how in the world am I going to pick up the pieces and move forward.
right. How did I even get there? So I did the mindset work, but I will tell you that uh, this trauma that I had goes all the way back to childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
in order for me to survive and feel secure and all those things, I was stuffing it all down, stuffing it, and there was no feeling. So now, by the time I get to my 50s, I was numb.
Mm.
I didn't have a way to actually feel. And
Yeah.
so I had to work through that and begin to language it and give myself feeling and to allow myself. And I will say that this was the hardest for me because I was great at forgiving people,
Mm-hmm.
but forgiving myself
Mm-hmm.
felt very difficult. But I learned how to tap into that. And so you really begin to like look at the stories we've talked to our, created for ourselves, because our subconscious runs our life. We think this is
Oh
a,
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
all, it's an internal operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to disrupt it. I had to disrupt that internal operating system and look at every single limiting belief as they came up. And sometimes you think you get them, as you say, slay them, right?
Yep.
But then as it goes on, it'll come back up again. You're like, hey, we had this conversation, but you have the conversation again, and it doesn't hurt so bad the second time, and you feel better. And then the
Yeah.
next thing it comes up, and you're like, okay, I see you're still hanging around. What do we need to talk about now?
Do you think, or would you attribute the matured woman that, we are now to help us to kind of get into our feelings more about our life, what we want with it, how do we want it to be designed, and what we want to look like? Because believe me, in my 20s and my 30s, I was out there. Okay, I was not thinking about anything to do with inner working, self-assessment, self-development, any of these types of things at all. But I feel like the older I get, the more wisdom that I pick up, and the more community, different types of people with different perspectives that I have, there's a shift that's really happening. Do you find that for yourself as well?
100%. Now, women now, more women are in power today than ever before, but
Mm,
we are still unhappy. We are
mm.
still lonely and isolated.
Oh,
Um, we're still not. We are just looking to become more. We are so good. We have mastered achieving anything we want in the masculine system.
mm,
And so now, as we start getting a little bit older, we're looking at not achieving more, but what is it that we want to become? What do we want to
mm.
create? And this is what we're stepping into.
Yes.
Menopause, I feel like now there's plenty of women that are not anywhere near, like menopause, and they're also feeling this shift. But I
Yes.
feel like menopause just pushes you along. If you haven't felt that shift, you're going to feel it now. And we are midwifing like a new woman, a new woman.
Listen, midwifing is such a great term for that, because I feel like the more and more that we're And y'all, for those that are listening in and you don't know what we're talking about, there will be, like Beth says, a time or a period. I just found out you're only in menopause for one day. Okay.
One
You're
day.
either pre-menopause or you're post-menopause. And so, having this shift in our bodies and our mind, and things are not happening the way that we really want, and causing unhappiness and isolation, and feeling just like, why am I here? Even the reason why I exist? It does put you into a place where sometimes you cannot recover from that. I have seen too many women and crossed too many women, but you're right. When we're in masculine roles, you know what we do? It's almost like we are proving to you that we can hold our ground in here. All right. Yes, we are now in this environment, and we need to know the tools, strategies to navigate in this system. And we're going to do it. Okay. Because we are determined. We are determined. We are not going to fail in this. But then when it gets to our own life in this next chapter, it's like, what is happening? What's
100%.
going on?
It's very confusing. There's no standard of care for women. Just saying. Did I go there? I did.
Yeah, you did.
And so this is why women need to support women. Our culture has taught us to not help other women, to talk bad about them, to ridicule them, to not help them. And this is not what we were meant. As creation, God wants us to love one another. So we have got to shift out of that societal culture and connection. We were meant for connection and relationships, and women need women. And so I just, it's so important. If you don't have girlfriends, just start networking. Start networking, and you don't have to get the besties, because you probably got run the gamut on that. But you just need to find at least one or two people to just have an honest conversation, so you can share your feelings and what's going on.
Yeah. You know what, Beth? So I have Chevy, who's here and who's listening in. She's my accountability partner. We're more than just accountability partners. We're actually like sister in arms for life. Every day we're sending messages back and forth, voice messages, because we both have very busy lives. But the fact of the matter is, when you have someone that you can communicate with and to share all these different, parts of whatever is going on, because believe me, I'm stretched thin. I've got this going on, that going on, and so forth. But at the end of the day, when another woman understands what it is, that when you say, I don't feel good, or I feel like I am, running from this point to that point, I need, a sanity check. I need somebody to reel me in. Am I going off the ledge a little bit? But having, what I'm saying, having a community of like-minded women who are, somewhat at the same stage you are, and you're just kind of like going along in the journey. And you're right, we are built to be in community. And so as you are now the coach, okay, you're now, what do you call yourself, Coach Beth? I don't know what your tag or your, like your name or anything is. I can give you one now. But as you are now in this space, and you're very intentional, because you're saying you're working with women, and particularly from cybersecurity. So, how did that come to be? Is it just because of your journey, or because of what people have said that they needed help with?
It's really because of my journey. And
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, if a woman comes up to me, or even a man, and say, "Hey, I just resonate with you. Can you help me?" I'm going to help. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm going to help them.
Yep.
But because of my journey, and there were some episodes of burnout in the cybersecurity. The organization that I said was a land of misfits became so successful. We like quadrupled in size.
Wow.
I even brought in cyber national mission force teams in. Okay,
Wow.
this was before the U.S. Cyber Command was like such a big force, but we had teams that were deploying, and they were largely unsuccessful. And we had to I was the organization that could get them trained up and help them. So we put together a full-blown joint qualification standard,
Yeah.
and we trained them, and that got put on their record. It helped my civilians for a later mission, and they were able to go out in the field and make a determination and help their mission become successful. But all of these things that we were putting into play burned out. I even had, this is crazy, I had a idiopathic autoimmune condition, which means I don't know what you have. You have so much inflammation that you need to calm down. Depressant, but I said, I'm not depressed. I was just burned out. And so I went to functional medicine doctors, and $20,000 later, between doctors, labs, and supplements and well-being programs to give me life support.
Jeez.
This gets crazy because then 2 years later, I get pneumonia a day before my 50th birthday. Now, who gets pneumonia in August?
Nobody.
So this was my body telling me, hello, you're not stopping. You're not resting. So I'm going to make you stop.
Oh.
Put me in the hospital. I get out of the hospital. I'm in bed another 10 days. I hadn't missed 14 days of work since I had my children. So when your body is ready to shut down, if you don't listen to it, it will shut you down.
Yeah. You know, you bringing up some things that have occurred for me as well, and I really didn't understand or know where it was coming from. But you're right. If you are under undue stress or having, different components of your work changing significantly, or the environment's changing. Listen, I was out on my last deployment at the age of 49. Now, y'all, anyone who's out there at the cusp of 50 on, you just need to step out of their way. All right, you just need to just go to the side and just say, you know what, I'm not going to mess with them. All right, I was one of those people that I was just marching around on the dirt with the vest and the Kevlar, everything's on, the helmet's on, and I'm thinking, why does my body feel like I'm just going to just it was, I came home with this knee problem, and it was inflammation. It was straight up inflammation. And I had to rehab it back together and all this other stuff. I hurt my back a few days before my retirement ceremony. And I was like, why do I feel like I'm falling apart? Okay. And you're right. It's like your body is letting you know things are happening, and you got to be able to listen to it. If you're not listening to it, the body gets the vote, and I'm gonna tell you, the body's gonna win every single time.
Every time. There's a great book. There's a great book called "The Body Keeps the Score."
Yes.
I don't recommend the Audible version. It's a little dry, but that's just for me. Some people love it, but the body keeps the score. And when we're not paying attention to those red flags, and we're not giving our body what it needs.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time, but this is why I focus on well-being. But we are not just talking about, a little bit of meditation and some bubble baths.
No.
We are just talking about like this big pie, and we've got wedges, and every single wedge, has a meaning. So sleep hygiene, right? Let's get our sleep in there. Let's get our movement and our exercise. And movement and exercise is different to me.
Yeah, they are.
Right. Let's get nutrition in there and proper hydration. And then we can also do our spiritual work and our meditation work. We got all kinds of things we have to do. And we have to be willing to give ourselves rest. Real deep rest.
Yes.
And when we get to this phase in our life, if we're not focusing on giving ourselves everything we need, something's going to pop up for you.
It is. And you know what? You're speaking my language, of course, but I think, again, once you start to really understand who you are, how your body functions, what is giving you that pep in your step and what is bringing you down, and this is just people, places, and things. I mean, we're talking about all the things, y'all. It's just not like one little, entity of wellness. And I think, as we start to learn more and more about wellness and all the aspects of wellness, people are now interested in seeing, well, where am I deficient at? Okay, where do I need a little bit more, like spiritual? You talk about spiritual wellness. Like I'm, I go to church almost every Sunday. And, for me, I feel like that is part of my spiritual wellness that for me, I need to be in the church. I need people. I need to hear a sermon. I need to hear the praise and worship team. Like those are the kind of things that fill me up. It's not the same when I'm watching it on TV virtually. All right. But I will if I need to. Right. But I think when you recognize what you really, really need for yourself, and I'm not talking about being overly obsessed or any addiction about one or the other, but it's a blended kind of, not even a balance, like a harmony of all these ways that you can start to show up feeling better, because I think that's what we want. We want to feel better in our own skin. We want to feel like we're not like hell on wheels. Okay. Like get out of our way. I don't like that feeling, that angst, that, like having palpitations and, sort of like, I don't feel good and everybody should know that I don't feel good, you know? So, but you're right. It's a lot of things to think about and it's a lot for people to do. So what would you say if someone is feeling some way, like they're going to watch this, or they may not understand what the starting place is, what would you recommend?
I will say that one of the things that kept me, like, in order to like immediately calm your nervous system, because when we're feeling anxious and we're running a high speed life and a high speed career, our nervous system will get pretty much unregulated pretty quick. One of the things that I did was alternate nostril breathing. And I do have a meditation audio at some point in the future. I'll make that available for anybody if they we can talk about that later, or you can just Google it. You can just Google it and you can learn how to. And this is one of these things where it might look a little weird if you're sitting at the conference table. You say, well, I can't really do alternate nostril breathing. I am at a table and I'm not feeling well. So then you just start doing deep breathing. We all breathe. We all breathe. And I think there's some things called box breathing, but I'll just do it. You
Yeah,
breathe
box
into a count of
breathing.
4, you hold, and you exhale slower to a count of like 6 or maybe 8. You breathe in, and what you're doing is you're taking a super deep, 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 deep breath, count to 4, hold, and then you're exhaling slow, way slow. And nobody can tell you're doing that, but it really just helps calm your nerves. It helps bring down that anxiousness and that heart stuff that could be going on. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not pretending to be or anything like that, right? But
Yep.
there are times where you just don't feel well, and that
Yeah.
can really help you calm down immediately.
Yeah. I think that's so important, and it's a tool. So, any tool that we can have at our disposal, that we don't have to make a big scene about it or anything like that. It's just our personal thing to ourselves. And then it brings us back into the moment. Okay. I don't know how many times I was, working, and I say working, but, I was serving y'all. And I'd be in those meetings where it was just a lot of chaos was going on. And, sometimes I didn't understand it. Like I was getting overstimulated. There was just so much talking, interjection, tone of voice, the noise, all of that. And sometimes my head, it would just be screaming, like, I want out of here. I want out of here. I can't take this anymore. I've had it up to here. And, breathing was one of the things that I started to do more towards the end of my career. Now, I wasn't doing it uh, early on because I didn't know what mindfulness and all this other stuff meant. I was just like trying to get through the day.
Right.
So, but, having some ways to really calm yourself down and bring you back into, okay, these things are happening. How are you going to deal with all this mayhem? Now, I've got Leslie on the Facebook side, and she says, nice, love it. She says she loves that you're empowering women. And she also said the mature woman realizes and accepts that we don't know it all or have it all together.
Amen to that.
You
That is
know,
called grace.
it is.
Called grace in action.
It is. If I would tell my younger self that you just need to sit down, queen, all right? And you don't need to act like you know everything, all right? Because, I thought I needed to. I thought I needed to be like on the ready, like I had the answer, all right? I already did 10 steps ahead of you. I already know what you're going to ask for, and I already got it here on this paper. But I think the more that we learn that we don't need to know it all, and we don't need to look like we are all together all the time, and sometimes we're a little bit hot of a mess, and it's okay. That is what it's called. It is called grace. And that definition is so, like, that is like the first time I've heard of that. And I'm like, yes, that's a new definition of grace. So, Leslie, thank you so much for bringing that up. Facebook won't let us be great, so we can't see Facebook comments. But, I got it here on my phone. So, hey, we're overcoming. So, you said you retired early. Okay. And I know that choice was not easy for you. And I know there's probably someone out there who's contemplating on retiring early. And I know all the things that are happening right now with all the rifts, the DRRPs, whatever, Again, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about it and they're not quite sure? Because what made you decide?
Okay, so this is the second riff, and okay, I gotta tell you, we women, we can get gritty.
Oh,
We get gritty and we build up some resilience. And I'm going to say that there is a little bit of stubborn streak in me. I'm just going to own that.
yeah, me too.
Okay. And so sometimes being stubborn does not always pay off.
Yep.
However, now that I'm a wise woman,
Yep.
there's all this nonsense. Now, so I am in my dream position. I have 4.5 years to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've been leadership coaching. I'm a certified coach. I am happy. So in all my transformation, I land my last 2 favorite jobs. I got promoted. My life is great. So I wasn't happy when this stuff started coming down the pike. And I put my hands on my hips and I said, you're not, nope, not making
Not me, not today.
Not
today.
Me. And I told everybody I am not going to go. I ran the numbers. Now I got to say that divorce was very, very, very expensive, and I'm still paying it. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. It's worth it because I'm living in my best life. So no, I am not sorry. Okay.
Hello.
I am sitting down with myself, and I'm just telling myself, no, they're not going to make me. They can't make me. But there was this small voice inside of me that said, but Beth, you've been going to school to become a coach. This is what you're planning to do when you retire. This was my plan. And the reason I wanted to stay another 4.5 years is because when you are retirement age and you have so many years and you retire at 62, you get a 10% extra bump on your pension, right? And so I have been living in the land of security and safety. Okay. So what I was bumping up against was all the feelings of scarcity and
Mm.
security. And I was like, oh, we have to sit with this. But I knew how. I had all
Mm.
the tools. So I did all the mental spreadsheets and I was like, okay, numbers wise, it ain't looking pretty, but I'm going to be okay. Great.
Yep.
Check, check. Now I got to get my internal tape recorder disrupted. I
Mm.
had worked through my identity. 41 years. This was who I was. I had a badge. People knew me. I had influence. I had friends, right? And I'm just like, but I don't want to give that up. So I had to work through the identity of like, that's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You are going, you're a coach. And then I worked through the scarcity and I worked through security. And as I worked through that, I remembered that I had once surrendered to the how.
Mm.
And then when I did that, what became clear was the certainty that it was going to be okay. Were there going to be hard times? Yes.
Of
Have
course.
I bet on myself 100 times, 1,000 times I have, and I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I decided to bet on myself. I burned the boats and I said, I am stepping out, stepping bold, and I am here to empower women, to help as many women as possible until the Lord takes me away.
Mm.
So I am standing for women to help them. And it can go beyond the burnout, the wellness, right? If
Yeah.
women need help, right, then
Yep.
we do we connect and we say,
Yep.
hey, what is it that you need? Because I just feel like men have already had a pretty good leg up, right? I just, there were no mentors. There was nothing when I started for women. There was nothing. And I still feel like, okay, I think in today's society, Caucasian women make 80 cents on the dollar to men. If you're African American, I think it's 60 cents to the
Mm-hmm.
dollar. And if
Mm.
you're in any other ethnic group, good luck. I don't know where you're at. That is not how we should be operating today. And so we need to step into our power so we can overcome that. You and I have been trailblazing, and I didn't say it earlier, maybe, but I just want to thank you for your service. There is a story there. I will have to share with you later. But 30 years in a system designed only for men. That is no joke. And so I just said, look at all the women, and I look at women like you, blazing trails, and I have many mentors, and I have a connection of women and a couple masterminds that I'm in, and I'm like, I can do this. I am going to bet on myself,
Yep.
and I am going to be out there swooping in as many as I can to help them become who it is that they want to be and create that life and learn. If you're going to live a high speed life, you're going to have to learn how to take care of yourself while you're
Mm.
doing it. It's not impossible, but you must learn how to take care of yourself. And what does that look like for you?
Yes. Yes to everything that you just said. Yes to burning the boats. Yes to saying, I'm just going to step in here and bet on myself. Yes to like, I don't care what I am doing, but for the rest of my life, I'm going to empower women. That is my call. All right. That is my mission. That is my purpose. That's what I am doing. And I think too, when we decide, because it is a decision, it's just a decision. Yes, it's hard as all get out. Anyone who has taken a different path than everyone else and doesn't know where you're going and is the leader, it is going to be hard.
Hard.
But I much rather live in a hard place where it is purposeful, intentional, meaningful, as opposed to being in the world of mayhem. And my service, I really truly, I don't have any regrets. I don't sit here and just, go into a hole about conversations that were had or things that were done and any of that, because I don't want to live in that any longer. I understand my service, what it was, what I was able to do with that. But I also had to learn, especially after retirement, that that's not the end of the story. That was just the beginning of the story. Okay, this
Right,
is just the
right.
beginning. Like I just was getting warmed up.
That is a book to the sequel. Look
Yeah,
at all the books you have going into your next sequel, right? And
yes.
so we are conditioned to believe that it's secure and they got to take care of you. But you are so much more than that.
Mhm.
We are meant to create. Where our purpose is to create.
Yeah,
And so and whatever that looks like for you, right? But
yeah,
finding out what your purpose is, and when you get to that place of where you believe that you know your purpose and you can be of service and be of value and help others. And I also decided to look forward, and I pretended I had a crystal ball and I said, what's the next 4.5 years going to be, and do I really want to do that? And all I could envision was myself on fire, crispy. And I said, well, we're not doing that.
no.
I'm not doing that. And so then I said, well, what could my life look like? What am I going to get for the next 4.5 years? What am I not going to get?
Yep.
And what am I like if I step out on my own? So I kind of had to do these pros and cons, and all I could see was I was like stress and mayhem and chaos, especially with the way the administration is happening, and then there's no end in sight. And I just said, you know what? I am going to take this opportunity. I am going to be thankful and blessed that I have a full retirement. And for those that do not, that's a whole nother ball game. And that's a lot of serious reflection. But there is hope. I
There
just
is
saw
hope.
another woman in my network, a woman in my network the other day. She said it took her 3 months, but she rolled up her sleeves and got gritty and took advice and did that in a reflection. And she is now employed. And so
Mm,
there is hope. But what we want to try to do is find a way where we're using our skills, our gifts. What are
yeah,
our gifts?
yes.
Where will we shine?
Yeah,
Because when you can do something that is your gift, the rest will come easy.
yeah. You're
I
right.
Too many years I went against the flow, and
Yeah,
it was too much. It was hard and it was complicated, and I thought, wow, what if we had ever been taught to find out what our gifts are and try to go down that lane, and how much of our life could have been more ease and flow if we had done that.
yeah.
And so I'm not saying any of that's easy. It's just a
No.
thought, right?
Yeah. And you know what? And even in the midst of everything that's going on, there's an opportunity to dabble into some things while you're still in the chaos and the mayhem, and even look at it as what can I start to develop or learn more about, so that way when there is an opportunity, I can just step over here and do something else that I really enjoy doing. And I get it, not all the time does jobs or interest pay the bills, if you will. All
Right.
right. And so there is a level to understanding, like, okay, I still need to bring the money in. I still got a mortgage, I still got electricities, I still got car payments and insurance, the things that everyday living that I need to have. But at the same time, what can I do in the off time? So that way, if again, I can start to build a little bit and build. And then when it's time to say, you know what, I'm good. Okay, I'm good. I
Absolutely.
just, you know what I mean? I've already created a plan for myself. I have a 2-year plan out. Now I want to, do this, and that's what I'm going to go for. So not by any means am I telling anybody to stop your job, quit your
Mm,
job today, okay, and come on over here. We both have had full careers, a long careers, and so knowing that we've had time to build up our status and where we're at and what we're kind of doing. We're doing things a little bit different now in this next. But I absolutely enjoy you being here and this conversation that we're having. So, I know we've been on here for probably about an hour now, even though we had a couple of minutes, y'all, that we were trying to figure things out. So, like, what would you also share that we haven't talked about with our audience?
Mm. I would say, um, really just have faith in yourself. Really
Mm,
develop like a really deep belief in yourself. And you're absolutely right. We both have led full careers. And so for somebody that is like mid-career, yeah, don't do anything crazy and irresponsible and go quit, right? Even, like Lisa Nichols is my mentor and I love her. And she says, hey, don't quit your day job.
no.
Go on the side and pick up some side skills. And then when you're ready to make that shift, right? So if you're in
Yep.
this situation, maybe it would be a great time to reflect on what are some other things I would be interested in doing?
Hmm.
And how can I get those skills? Can I get them for free online to begin with? There's any stuff on YouTube or whatever, YouTube University.
You to university.
There's a lot of things you can do. And reach out to some mentors and start thinking about it, and community colleges and certificates, and so continue to like build up your skills, so that when you are in a better place, you can pivot. You have that option to pivot. And I will just say one more thing. We're not taught about failure, but I want to say failure is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's feedback.
It is feedback.
First attempt in learning. First attempt in learning.
Yes.
Not a bad thing. You take it and it just tells you, oh, that might not be my gift. Okay,
Mhm.
great. I tried it. You can't take it away from me, but I'm probably not going to do that forever. Next, opportunity.
Mhm.
So just don't give up on yourself and just be curious about what your possibilities and opportunities are.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that too. And I think we've been conditioned for so long to not fail. Like you fail, and it was for me beating myself up in the corner in my head all day, every day, and not realizing that I was finding out different ways to do things. Like I was failing at, I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try this. And then before too long, I had all these different options. So it's like, oh, that sounds like this option can work for this particular thing, right? And even in business, y'all, like business of trying to figure out like who your client is, what's your message going to be, how you're going to present yourself and as a new whatever. Because listen, me and Beth have gotten out here and said, okay, now we are, and everyone else who's been in this space, they've been doing it all along while we were in our career, you know? And so you have to realize that sometimes it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult and it's going to be challenging to say the least. But remember all the whys, okay? The whys that you started, the whys of, why you want to do whatever it is that you're wanting to do in this next. And I believe that has really helped my journey as well, to really just stay in the industry field in which you're wanting to be, to provide service. So I absolutely love that you were here and we kind of like shared a whole lot of things in here, y'all. Okay, so of course, the last question I ask every guest, and we're closer to it than we realize. With these birthdays, okay? Because here, listen, we both turning 53 this week, all right? Me tomorrow, and Beth is on the 22nd. I'm just trying to look on here, and 22nd is actually Friday, all right? So, um, we're about to almost hit 80 here, before you too long. So, my last question is, what would you want your family and your friends to say about you on your 50th, or excuse me, 50th, on your 80th birthday?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm envisioning myself to be a very healthy, strong woman, still
Mm,
serving. Okay.
yeah.
So that's my vision of myself. But
Yeah.
I would love, if I heard them say that I never gave up on myself. I was courageous enough to break the chains of generational trauma,
Mhm.
right? That I was brave enough to reinvent myself as often as needed to serve and step into my purpose. That I loved myself, life, and others with deep care, empathy, and compassion, and that I made it easier for the women after me to do the same.
I listen, all that is so good. Like, I'm gonna be at your 80th birthday party. And if nobody says these things, I'm gonna be like, listen, okay, you didn't get it right. All right. I'm gonna let you know. But I feel like we're definitely on this quest, this journey, and doing it, in our own different ways, but serving the mass. And usually, for both of us, it's women that are coming to us and asking us, how do we do it? Where do we start? What made you, think about doing this as opposed to something else? So you are a trailblazer in your own right, Beth. I am absolutely in awe of what you are doing in this next chapter for yourself. We had on our show today, we had Chevy, of course, on the LinkedIn side. And then we had Leslie, who was on the Facebook side of the house. We probably had some other people with, how, everybody's just kind of listening in. It is Sunday night. We get it. There's a lot of things that are happening. School is back in for some people. So I understand getting these kids back into school and getting them on a schedule. But for all those that came by and attended live, thank you so much for being here, because you chose to be here and kind of listening in. And for those that come back for the replay, just go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comments and let us know what you thought about tonight's show, what part really resonated with you. And of course, I will be back here next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have yet another SLAYMAZING guest. And so please make sure you mark that on your calendar and be back here, so that way we can have another follow-on conversation. Because what I like to do, we just like to keep these conversations going. It's like one on top of the next. And hopefully you will be able to join us next Sunday. So thank you so much, Chevy. We'll take that. We appreciate you. All right, y'all. So we will see you next Sunday or on the Rise and Slay show. I have that on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all we talk about there is personal branding and imaging. So if you want to hear more about that, check me out then. But other than that, I want you all to keep on slaying until you can't slay no more, and have a SLAYMAZING week. Bye-bye, y'all. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Rochelle.